Good morning, everyone. It's Mrs. Abbott here for another assembly, all about one of our learning bees. So I've given you a little bit of a clue to which learning bee that we are focusing on this week. I wonder if you can take a guess, maybe tell your adult or your brother and sister if they're in the room, what learning bee you think we are going to be talking about today. It is be curious. Now, we love that word at St Albans, and we encourage every single one of you to be curious about your learning and to be curious about finding answers in different ways. So I want you to just have a think now. What are you feeling curious about today? Now, I found some questions, and I know these are actually some questions that I've been asked in the past by some children. And they're amazing because it shows just how curious you are about the world around you. So things like, why does a cheetah have spots? Why do cows sleep standing up? Is the moon made of cheese? And then I thought one that you might be thinking of this morning is, I wonder what my learning is about today. So I've come on here today to show you my amazing scarf. Now, it's a little bit of a trick. Only wise people can see the picture of my scarf though. Not foolish people, only wise people. So, what do you think of my scarf? I've added the picture onto the screen. What do you think of it? Do you like it? Do you like the colours? Do you like the pattern? Perhaps right now you might be asking yourselves, what scarf are you on about, Mrs. Abbott? There's not a single picture on that screen. Well, I've got something to tell you. There wasn't really a scarf there. But the theme of the assembly today is don't be afraid to ask. Now, if we were all together and we were all in the hall like we normally would be for our assemblies, and I'd said to you I was here to show you my amazing scarf. Do you like the colours? Do you like the patterns? And you might all be looking at me thinking, oh, she's not wearing a scarf. And most of you might have felt a little bit afraid to ask the question or to say, but miss, you don't have a scarf. And sometimes people, both young and old people, are scared to ask questions. And they can fear that other people will think that they are foolish or possibly think that they are stupid. So I'm sure some of you would have asked me that question if we were in the hall together. But today we're going to have a look at a story that links back to the theme of the assembly, not being afraid to ask and not being afraid to be curious about things. So the story today is called The King's New Clothes. The king loved new clothes. He wore them very proudly and he wore only the best. One day, two men pretending to be tailors called at his palace. Actually, they wanted to cheat the king. Your Majesty, they declared, we make clothes with the very best of cloth. It's so light and fine that it appears invisible. In our experience, the men continued, handling the cloth, some people are so stupid that they can't even see it. Oh, of course, quite right, said the king, who struggled to see anything, but he didn't want to appear stupid. What marvellous colours! How exciting! Would I like a suit making? Well, yes, start straight away. He paid the men a large sum of money and gave them a room in which to begin work. The very next day, the king asked his prime minister to go and see how the suit was coming on. The cloth, he said, is very special and only wise people could see it. The Prime Minister watched the tailors moving scissors through the air and busily using needles. He couldn't see anything, but he said nothing at all. He did not want to appear stupid. The Prime Minister returned and told the King that his new suit was looking like no other suit that he'd ever seen. Finally, the new suit was ready. The tailors helped the king to try it on. They brushed it down and remarked that it fitted really well. Indeed, they felt it was so light the king would hardly know that he'd got it on. Indeed, agreed the king. He still couldn't see the suit, but didn't want to appear foolish. Will you wear it at tomorrow's parade? The tailors asked. Oh, certainly, the king replied. News of the king's new clothes quickly spread. People told one another, only wise and clever people can see this suit, and if you can't, you're stupid. So it was that the king paraded in front of a great crowd. The people all thought it incredible that the king was only in his vest and boxer shorts, but no one said anything. No one wanted to look stupid. And then a young child asked loudly, why is the king in his vest and boxer shorts? Gradually, others began to say, that is a good question. Why is he only wearing those? Soon, the message was being whispered from one person to the other. The king's not even got dressed. The king's face turned very red. He realised the truth, but would he ever admit that he wasn't wearing the finest of suits? After all, he didn't want to appear stupid. So, let's reflect now. We're going to think about what this story tells us about asking the questions. So it's very similar to when I asked you to have a look at my scarf. And some of you might have been sitting there thinking, well, actually, what scarf? There isn't a scarf on the picture. But you may have been too afraid to say something or to ask. So asking questions makes us more aware and it keeps us safe. And asking them is the way that we learn about others, learn about new things, the world around us, and faith in God. And we absolutely should not be afraid to ask a question. However big or however small the question is, we should never be afraid. Because to ask a question doesn't mean that we are slow or stupid or foolish, like talked about in the story. Wise people ask questions. And for all these reasons, no one should ever hesitate to ask a question. Sometimes a question may be the very one that everyone else is afraid to ask. And as a good teacher, Jesus encouraged people to ask questions and find answers. And I know even as adults we do this, and some of your mums, dads, parents, carers, whoever you live with, may be sitting and watching this assembly alongside you, and they might be agreeing with it. There may have been a time where they've wanted to ask a question, but they've not wanted to ask in case they look foolish. Well, we know it is important to ask those questions because many answers to questions can be found very easily. They can be found in books, on internet sites, by having conversations with friends and parents and other family, as well as any adults that are in school. And each day's quest for learning continually involves asking questions. So I wonder who will be wise enough to ask some good questions today. Now, if you're watching this at home, it might be that you choose to ask some questions to your family, something maybe that you want the answer to that you've been wondering about for a while. But if we reflect on what this looks like in our school day normally, and we talk about being curious in our lessons, it would be us asking questions. So what if this happened? Or how could you prove it to me? And you all know that I am a very, very big advocate for proving things, especially in maths. And if you've ever been in my class before and you share an answer with me, you know that I will say, oh, how could you show that answer? What if I change this? How else could you show me that answer? So it's always important within our school that we engage in open-ended learning. So that might be where an adult has posed a question to you and we give you the opportunity to explore it in different ways. Now, we've done lots of this when we've looked at some of our maths investigations that we proudly display in our classrooms, because in those maths investigations, we ask you to notice things and look for patterns and think of reasons why. And you are always so fabulous at doing that. So I really hope that you're continuing to do that at home during your remote learning. Being curious also can be researching, so it can help you show your particular interest in things. So if you are one of those children that's ever asked something like, why does the cheetah have spots, or why does the zebra have stripes, it might be that you do some research to find that out, because it can help you when solving some challenging problems. So the last thing I want us to do is to pray. Now you can put your hands together if you wish, or worship as you do. Creator God, thank you for the joy of discovery. Thank you that asking questions is fun. Where, what, why, when, how. Help us to learn and to make us wise. Amen. Now, I'm giving you a little bit of talk homework, but it's not anything that you need to write down, just something that I would like you to consider throughout the day, throughout the week. And I wonder, can you think of anything that you are curious about? And could you pose your question or questions to an adult that is at home with you? How do they choose to help you find a solution? What do they suggest that you can do? I hope you have a lovely day, and we'll see you soon, hopefully.